We are finally back. There's a lot to catch up on. Excited to get into it today with Kevin. We'll be discussing FOMC, tariffs, the conflict in the Middle East, and much more on this wonderful episode of Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor. I know it's been a while, but you know the drill still. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, drop us a comment. Remember, nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research. Kev, it's been a little over 4 weeks since our last show. I had a second child, so things have been a little crazy over in my neck of the woods, but I'm excited to be back with you. I've missed chopping it up, talking about the markets. There's been, the timing, just a couple things have happened in the last month. So we'll get into those, but how are you doing, buddy? How are you feeling about the state of the markets with everything that is going on around the world?
I'm doing great, man. I think that's the most important thing, because sometimes when you look at all the shit that's going on in the world and the markets, it's really shitty. It's really annoying to just keep looking at this stuff sometimes. So I'm grateful that it's summertime, spending some time away from the screens, knowing that they're going to keep doing their algo shit. We'll talk about what I think is actually going on here and why it's kind of dangerous, but summer trading months. What can you say?
Yeah, not a whole lot. We've had just so many weird situations, and when you see all the shit that's going on in the Middle East, especially, it's like it helps you keep perspective on some of this stuff. I'm just feeling grateful that we're not in the middle of dealing with all that, of our homes being bombed and all the atrocities going on over there. But we do need to talk about the markets. It is worth our time. I guess let's start with today's FOMC, because that is kind of top of mind for everyone.
Yeah.
Fed, to no one's surprise, if you thought they were going to do anything but keep rates the same, then maybe you just don't get involved in this stuff anymore, because they keep rates the same. Powell came out, same kind of ho-hum presser, but what I took from the little amount of it that I was able to listen to is that, and you can see this in the dot plot as well, the Fed officials have no clue what is coming and what they're going to do. Some officials are showing, 3 to 4 rate cuts. Some are showing none. So, the estimate is 2, like it was back in March, but still there is just so much uncertainty. They don't know what tariffs are going to do. We're not sure about escalation in the Middle East, if that's going to spill over to other countries. What's going on with China and the trade deal there? Can they finish up a trade deal with the European Union? So no one really knows what to do. And the Fed is just playing this very cautiously by keeping rates elevated, because they are still waiting to see inflation come down further. They even stated the expectation is that inflation goes back to 3%. And if that's the case, holy shit, look out below. The markets are going to absolutely tank. So I think the Fed is in a shitty situation. Things really did seem like they were trending in the right direction. And even the stuff with tariffs has improved. We've seen deals with a lot of countries, and hopefully that continues. But now you throw in what's going on in the Middle East, price of oil, if Iran shuts down some of these, some of these ports and canals, what's that going to do to the price? So it is just a really tough time. It's, the timing with summer and just taking some time away from the screens, I think is doing, once again, I feel like we say this all the time. There are times to do things. Playing right now in these markets, especially from a leverage standpoint, is just a big mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. And there is a ton to unpack with that. I think what I got most out of the little that I did see of the Powell presser, is that Trump says we have a very stupid man at the Federal Reserve. That was just a tweet they came out before the show, before the presser, and it just goes to show that Powell's not going to listen to whatever Trump says. They're going to do whatever they want. And again, it's getting to the point where across every single situation where just because Trump is being irate doesn't mean that Powell is right in what he's doing either. It's very possible that every single adult in the room is just either has special interest or is just absolutely, just bonkers, doesn't understand anything that they're doing, right? We've had tons of talks with the tariffs. If we've seen a lot of the tariffs deals also not go through. The Japanese one did not go through. And that's a big one, right? And now we're seeing that there's problems with Iran, and we know that, the yen carry trade is heavily influenced by oil and things that are priced in USD. That could absolutely send the yen back and forth, which can cause more problems. It seems like everything that Trump and this administration is trying to combat, they're actually shooting themselves in the foot even worse, right? They wanted to bring down inflation. Well, they're also deporting a ton of people who are keeping, labor costs, labor wages for certain, industries fairly cheap. Then, if they have to hire American workers to, supplement the people that they lose, prices are going to go up. There's just a lot of scenarios where nothing is really going to resolve itself. We're kind of just heading towards something that's going to just push everything off the cliff. So it's kind of interesting that we're getting the stuff that's happening out in the Middle East right now. I think Powell is just kind of trying to keep, it's almost like the plane's out of fuel and they're just trying to coast, to the point where it's going to have to land at some point. It might be a bumpy landing. I think it probably is going to be one, but I really think that he's just trying to make it, if not appear that the Fed is not responsible for what's going to happen. I think that's Powell's number one priority right now, because he kind of expects inflation to go up. You already lost, right? That mandate of last year is out the window.
Yeah, we're seeing the markets reprice the rate expectations. I mean, a month ago, I'm looking at the futures now, there was a 67% chance that the rates would be held steady in July. That's up to 90% now as of we're talking, based on what Powell has said and the statement that came out from the Fed, from the FOMC. So it is a tough spot for a lot of people who are active in the markets. We'll take a look at the charts in a little bit. We got to talk. I mean, we haven't really talked fart coin much. Like, there's gonna be a lot of fart coin discussion today. But equities are pretty flat overall. They've given back some of the earlier gains. I don't know what happened with Coinbase. We can talk about Coinbase. I mean, that one's gone nuts. Like, the latest with stable coins and the Genius Act or whatever that thing is. We had that to discuss. But bonds are. We're seeing a little bit of divergence in some of the different duration bonds. We have some of the medium term ones being bought up a bit, some of the shorter dated ones being sold off. So it's kind of a weird state of the market. And once again, just like, we don't know the escalation in the Middle East, how involved the U.S. is going to get. If the U.S. gets involved, what are Russia and China going to do to support Iran? It's kind of tough. Do you want to talk anything else kind of macro, or do you want to get into the charts?
Well, let's talk big picture, what's happening in TradFi with a lot of what summer trading is, right? So what I'm seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of heavy algo trading, which means the computers in which on a lot of these trading desks are trying to keep the market within a certain range. A lot of this is happening. Meanwhile, you're also seeing tons of insider selling, more than buying, which is absolutely wild. But the market, the computers continue to buy up. You're keeping a ton of products that crush volatility elevated, which inherently crushes volatility to the point we're seeing the VIX, drop down. We did see prior to the strike from Israel on Iran that there was a VIX spike in the VIX futures. That's going to be a huge indicator to see if something bigger is going to happen in the market. We're going to actually bring that up on the show going forward, because I think that that's going to be telling the futures of the VIX are more important than the VIX itself. But what we're seeing is a really sideways crab market. It is just going sideways, right? Between 5,900 and 6,050, somewhere right around that range. You're not getting a lot of volatility. You're not seeing these major moves. You're seeing what I think to be is summer distribution before we get into a lot of those loans coming due in September, October. So what we're seeing is a lot of people getting out of positions, kind of going away for the summer. But at the same time, these trading desks that say, I don't know, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Fidelity, all these are kind of just buying this market up and trading within these ranges, scalping. It's very boring. It's very bad because it doesn't accurately tell what's going on in the market. We're seeing tons of major shifts. I mean, gold continuing to be extremely strong up here. You're seeing major moves in the bond market. one day and then it'll just crash the next. There's tons of volatility out there. It's just not necessarily in the equity market itself. So that's going to be something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on. But that's what I'm seeing in TradFi. It's also, I mean, I'm just going to pull up a couple of the charts for the Mag 7. I don't think those are going to be the ones we should be talking about or looking at, in the coming weeks. But if we go to, Apple, since summer, just sideways. Amazon, it's been going up a little bit since May, but again, it's no different from where it was May 15th, just kind of within this range. Also, massive gap down there. Coinbase, we just talked about that. We'll see how this plays out. But again, these massive gaps, I do think that they will be filled. Google, right at resistance. Meta, looks like it's kind of topping out a little bit here. Maybe it's not. Who knows? Microsoft, obviously, massive gap down there. And it's a slow grind, right? It's not like you're getting these massive Coinbase, candles. You're seeing a lot of this kind of just picking up each and every day is going. I mean, look at this. This is up. It's down 1.03%. Next day, it's up 2.3%. It averages out. It's about the same. And you're just kind of slowly grinding up. It isn't a lot of strength. You're also seeing volume drop on some of these things. Netflix, again, looks like very similar to the double top scenario. And then NVIDIA, I got to get rid of this head and shoulders thing so you can see this. But again, it's the volume is decreasing and you're also seeing the MACD kind of roll over. You're probably going to see some of these pull back a little bit. And I still think that we're going to see a lot of money flow out of these large caps and into some of these smaller cap crazy things. Like right now, biotech is absolutely going insane. Small, $50 million or less market caps are pumping. But for the most part, we're in this very stagnant period for across all of TradFi. I would say for at least the Mag 7 too. I haven't necessarily made any plays on it. I think it's kind of boring. I'd probably just wait until August or September before I come into any of those positions. But looking at how everything's been playing, just boring.
Just boring. It's not boring?
Fartcoin.
Let's get into crypto a little bit. We can, we'll start Bitcoin. We'll go with the big boys, but then we got to talk. I think a lot of these charts are kind of similar. There's a reckoning coming, and we have to, is it going to be positive or is it going to be an absolute dumpster fire? So let's take a look. Start with Bitcoin. Even with everything going on, still, the fact that it's still at almost 104, just 104 a second ago, is fairly impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong, it could go a lot lower, but all things considered, I don't think it's the end of the world that is at 103. You got all your lines and all your golden arches here that's telling me that it's going to go back to 70K. So why don't you just lead off with what your charts are showing?
I have a theory. I'll talk about it after, but I might have been right after a long period of time. We'll see. It would just be a funny way for things to end in crypto. And you're kind of seeing a lot of the things, especially with this Genius Act and stable coins, that are kind of alluding to some type of reckoning in crypto. But looking here, you're not going above. I mean, you would need a massive rally to go above 111. I don't see it. I think what we're seeing is a parabolic resistance level, and we keep hitting our head on it. We hit it here at 108. We came short in 109 here, went above it at 112 here, 110, again, right here, 108. I honestly think if we are going to push in the short term, you're looking at 107 or south of that. And then as we kind of lead into the end of the year, you can see that we're finding that this curve is coming down. And again, this thing could change. Absolutely. If we get a push higher, I could adjust this. That's why sometimes TA is kind of BS. This is just kind of forecasting what could be the scenario. But if we look at this, big picture, this is say triple top. I would say it's more of a double top if we look at this on the weekly or the monthly. And we're looking at probably some downward price action come into Q4. Right. Doesn't necessarily have to go extremely low. It doesn't have to go to 31,000, doesn't have to go to 17,000. Like I think I was saying at one point, but there is a scenario where it could go there, and it kind of relates to stable coins and everything like that, and kind of what's going on right now. So we do know that Tether, and I haven't brought up this in the longest, Tether, IFINX, Chinese-backed bank, that pretty much issues the stable coins for Tether, has the backing for it using U.S. treasuries. We also know that Tether is heavily used to fund a lot of operations in Iran. you just look at where we are right now. You see that Circles has the IPO. There's a lot of things that are out there. I'm not saying it's going to be the black swan, but if there was a ironic, hilarious black swan that comes out, it's stablecoins. Trump makes a push for stablecoins in the U.S. to be pretty much where the headquarters of all that is going to be. And we see that they do sanctions on Tether or Iran or something along those lines. And you just start to see all this shit just drop because, again, what are we seeing that's been pushing up the price for 2 years? It's been USDT. Do we know it's backed 1-to-1? We have no idea if it's backed 1-to-1. They have been very opaque about a lot of their balance sheet, but it's one that I look at this chart and I'm like, that would be kind of funny if that's the reason why this thing is so steep going into the end of the year. Interesting. But again, if it's not, then we're just looking somewhere within this range, right? I think we are going to see a healthy pullback to 73K at some point. Does it bounce from there? Maybe. It really depends on how bad this market truly is, how bad, this yen carry trade has wound this market, and also what, economic policy is going to be moving forward. Mind you, there's also the possibility for several black swans. We also have, what is it? July 13th, I think, the tariffs that were paused for 90 days come back into play. It's a lot of things that we kind of have to keep in mind. But looking at Bitcoin here, I don't think you're going up much here. In the short term, you might push up to 107. I don't know if you're going to be pushing up any higher than that. And even looking at this here, I'm not saying this is perfect, but maybe something along those lines. It looks like July 18th. You might be breaking out of this. So maybe you trade within that for a period of time. And then obviously this parabolic resistance that we're looking at here could come into play to push us down a little bit further, probably sub 100K at least. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on Bitcoin in the big picture. We haven't talked about Bitcoin in a long time. So my thoughts on it. Nothing else outside of that on the big boy. If you want to talk about Farcoin, we might have some ideas there. I know you definitely do.
Let's do. Are there any other alts that you think are worth talking about? I mean, we saw ETH had a really nice rally. It started to give some of that back. Grant, it is very much moving toward the oversold territory now. That had pushed up close to 2,900, down back under 2,500 at this point. I think that there's still probably some potential in ETH to make a move. I don't know about all-time highs this year, but I think it wouldn't surprise me if we saw ETH get back to 3,500 to 4K at some point later this year. Anything that you're seeing in the charts on that one?
I mean, if I'm just being basic with this, you have 5 waves down, maybe you have 3 waves up, 5 waves down, and that gets us to our level. This I've talked about this in the past, 636. I think I've been talking about it for 2 years or so. Maybe that's what gets us there. Again, I don't think anything in crypto is sacred right now. I think everything is actually really weak. Maybe Farcoin and Bitcoin, honestly, and I hate saying that because I sound like an idiot, but I honestly think that those two will be fine. At least when we're looking short term. ETH might have another leg up. Don't think it's going above the all-time high. Not the all-time high, but the high that we put in back in December. I think this is extremely tough resistance that it would have to break through. Tapped it once, twice, thrice, 4th time. I don't know if it's even going to have the chance. Probably going a lot lower if we're looking out into Q4. I mean, it could just push up a little bit higher than where it did back in June 15th or so. So what, 3 days ago? Push up a little bit higher, find some resistance around these levels at maybe 31.65. And that's me being optimistic here, but it's very possible that this is just 535, and then we're going to probably bottom out somewhere here into Q4, maybe Q1 of 2026. So just looking at that, I just don't think anything is safe here. Surprise, right? I'm being extremely pessimistic again on crypto. Just is what it is. I'm looking at these things. Alts never really had an alt season. Farcoin doing pretty good, but outside of that, your big run up was kind of the election. Right after the election, into like the time Trump rang the bell on Wall Street. That's honestly, that was the short window, and you're not necessarily getting another bounce. It looks like. Could it happen again? We get some money pull out of Bitcoin going to alts. Sure. I'm just not going to hold my breath for that. Let's pull up Farcoin because I just don't care about anything else. Cardano buying Bitcoin, who cares? AVAX. I'm sorry if you're a bag holder to this stuff, but it's just like, man, we got bigger problems in the world than some of these mini ass coins. I'm sorry, BNB's not pumping more. whatever. But looking at Fartcoin, the cup and handle, the prophecy, kind of held true, right? Maybe we could even move this back here, something like that. And we are expecting a massive move to the upside. It's very possible. We could also be coming back down to about 89 cents. Not holding my breath for that either. And that just comes back with maybe some post-OPEX volatility that I do expect us to see in the coming days. Maybe it's not a big one, but again, we have to keep in mind there's a lot of stuff in the Middle East that could be a black swan. But bouncing off of this, I think there is probably going to be an opportunity where maybe some of that money pulls out of Bitcoin over the summer, goes into something like Fartcoin, which still has an extremely small market cap, in my opinion. Could be this, like we've talked about, it could be SHIB, this cycle SHIB for sure. And we're looking at north of 273. I think you break 273, you guys are looking at extreme price discovery, short squeeze season, to the point where not necessarily short squeeze season, but it's just like everyone's just and their mother is just buying the shit out of Fartcoin. It's on Coinbase now, right? I haven't bought any, but
it's on. Yeah. So let's talk bigger picture Fartcoin. It was listed on Coinbase, I believe, last week. It just got listed on Binance US. We're still waiting on
that exists still.
Still we're still waiting on the bigger Binance, and then we're still waiting on Robinhood as well. I think it'll eventually find its way to Robinhood. I said it tongue in cheek on Twitter that Vlad has a fiduciary responsibility to list Fartcoin. But it's almost kind of true with the amount of volume that it's doing on Coinbase and the amount of fees that Coinbase is earning from Fartcoin. He's kind of missing out on some money by not listing Fartcoin on Robinhood. So I think eventually that'll come. I do think that I still maintain that it is the meme coin of this cycle. It has so much mind share, both on Twitter, but also in like the mainstream media. Like not many coins. You got Doge, and that's about it, that get, multiple news cycles of their coin. And Fartcoin has it. Like, it did it on that first run-up. It's gotten it again recently. Like, Fartcoin could have died, and it rebounded, and it has that mind share, and it pisses people off just enough to where they're going to keep shorting it, and you're going to get these short squeezes. So I think that I have not sold any of my Fartcoin. I believe that $5 is more than reasonable. Just if you look at its market cap compared to a lot of others. So I'm still uber bullish on Fartcoin. Are you gonna make 100x on it like you would have if you had bought last year? No, but I think if you want to not be sidelined, you still have a good chance at a 3, 4, 5, 6x from here, if not higher. Listen, man, if it is this cycle sheep, it's going to $25 and I'm getting hot air rises tattooed on my ass. Like, shit could get real weird with this one in the right scenario, right? Like, you kind of gave, as you often do, you gave the bear case. I'll give some of the bull cases. Let's say we finally work through some of these trade deals. I think that's possible. Let's say that Israel and Iran stop posturing and we get, things cool down there, and the same can be said in Ukraine. Like, I think a lot of these, and then the Fed is finally able to lower interest rates. Like, I think there's enough out there that isn't outside the realm of possibility that could lead to, more favorable market conditions right now. And Fartcoin is doing this during some pretty unfavorable times. So I'm bullish on Fartcoin. I'm bullish Bitcoin. I've added a little bit of ETH here and there. So I'm sticking with my own advice. Like, the advice that I give out on here is what I practice of, like, if I see dips, I'm gonna accumulate, and I'm just gonna hold through some of these tough times. I'm not trying to get shaken out. I'm not playing with leverage. I'm not trying to, time the market. I'm not smart enough for that. I know myself well enough there. So I think I'm happy with the strategy that I have in place right now. Is it perfect? No, but it's what works for me. So I think everyone needs to kind of find what they're best suited at when it comes to being involved in the markets, if it's even being involved at all, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with Fartcoin and my overall thoughts just on the crypto market in general.
I'm going to give some GameStop news as of right now. We had a convertible bond. First off, earnings were amazing, as they always are, because it is the best company that should be in the S&P, but they can't, because if it does join the S&P, everyone's going to lose a shit ton of money in the market. We'll get Melvin Capitals having left and right. But Ryan Cohen, once again, pissed off all of the shareholders with a convertible bond issuance. He's done it after each earnings. It's almost predictable. When the news came out, I sold all my GameStop, and then I waited till the bond auction the next day stopped. And I got 250 shares extra from buying in again. And also, it was like a free $3,000. You know, when you get some of these plays out in the market, just reach out, take them. It's free money. Honestly, that's what I did. I learned from the last time back in March. And again, nothing in GameStop's trajectory, in my opinion, has changed. We held support. And the funny thing is, I bought literally 5 cents above where Ryan Cohen had rebought, and that fucking held, which is absolutely wild. So I literally caught the bottom of this move. It went down like 23%. I was like, or 24%, and I caught literally the 24% bottom. I was very happy. You know, that's stroking myself aside. This is a massive channel that we got to keep an eye on. Pulling this away because we are, you know, we broke out of this, right? I thought it was gonna be a cup and handle. It's not. It looks like to me a double bottom, which is amazing. Obviously, that's bullish just as much as a cup and handle. This one just means it's a little bit faster in time, but it looks like we break out right around the end of July, in my opinion. You know, if we trade within this you know, triangle for a period of time, okay, that's fine. We also have massive gap up to, got a little gap here at 2960. You know, we're talking about a massive triangle that's been spanning over a year from June of 2024. We're pretty much on the 1-year anniversary of this, and we can see that the technicals are looking pretty good on the daily. Daily is completely oversold, and then you got the MACD starting to turn positive down here. So that's good for momentum. Again, I do think that we're not out of the woods yet. With VIX-X being today and OPEX being Friday, it's very possible that we get kind of this crush for the next few days, and then something happens. You know, I still think something probably is going to happen that's going to cause a little bit of a sell-off in the market, but the main one, obviously, September, October, that quarterly OPEX, along with all those loans coming to, going to be very interesting on that front. Outside of that, I was talking to you in house about this company called Quantum Biopharma. When I told you guys I think this thing was going to squeeze, it was at like $13. Today, it's up 21.84%. It's at 31.35%. This, again, I didn't have any of this because I'm a fucking idiot and I should have bought when I told you guys, but I looked at it and I'm like, huge amount of short exposure. We're in this period of time where the low market cap things are going to start squeezing. It made perfect sense. And also into biotech, and, you know, anything that's related to that, it popped off. We're in short squeeze season 100%. That's why I think Farcoin, obviously low market cap, has a really good chance of pushing up. I think a lot of these other stocks have really good chances of pushing up. You know, I sold my FFAI just because I think it's going to have a bit of a pullback, but I'm still bullish on this 100%. I still have calls on it. And I'm still bullish on volatility. I think the VIX is going to have, you know, probably a really good move to the upside. Not necessarily now. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong, right? It's very possible I'm wrong. And I'm thinking too far ahead in time. But I think that I will be getting back into the VIX trade come August, September, just because I think that window of volatility is going to continue to open up for that quarterly OPEX, you know, whether it's September or October, whenever it decides to see some of that volatility. I think we're in for a treat in some of these things. But this summer, you know, as boring as TradFi is, there are things that you can make a ton of money on. That being said, low volume, high risk, and you have to understand that there are people selling as much as they possibly can. Outside of that, I think that we're kind of just going to see what happens next week. I don't expect anything really until probably Sunday night or Monday. All the bad news comes out on the weekends. We all know that now, where we can't make money, but they could rebalance their books and everything like that. So just kind of, that's the state of the market, I feel.
All right. I think that's a good place to wrap it up for today. It was good to be back. We'll be back next week. I believe Kevin, you're out on Friday, so no worries there. But we'll be back next week trying to get into a regular cycle here now that things are trying and having a second kid. It's pretty great but exhausting. But you know what? The markets never stop. The money never sleeps. So we're going to keep rolling. And at this point, I don't really sleep that much either. So appreciate those of you who joined us today. If you have not yet, like, subscribe, comment, share us out on social, any of that good stuff. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Appreciate you being here, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.